I came to Thailand to do good, to give back after losing everything that mattered to me. I didn't come here looking for love. I just wanted to feel useful again. Then I met Aum, a young single mother who told me she was drowning in debt and shame. I thought helping her was the right thing to do. I thought I was saving her. But in the end, I learned she didn't need saving. She just needed my bank account. A few nights ago, I got an email from someone who's been following this channel for a few months now, not long, but long enough to know what kind of stories we share here. He told me he found this channel late one night, after his own relationship in Thailand had fallen apart. He said hearing my story helped him finally admit what really happened in his own life, that sometimes the line between love and survival can blur until you don't even know which side you're on anymore. When I first read his message, I didn't know how to react. At first, I smiled, grateful that someone understood the heart behind what I'm trying to do here. But as I kept reading, that smile faded. There was pain in his words, the kind of quiet, exhausted pain that doesn't come from anger, but from disappointment. And it reminded me exactly why I started sharing these stories in the first place, because so many of us come out here searching for peace and somehow end up losing a piece of ourselves instead. So before I begin tonight's story, I just want to say thank you, really, to everyone who's watching, liking, and leaving comments from all over the world. Whether you've been here for months or since the very beginning, your support keeps this channel alive. If you're new, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. I read every comment, and I mean that. This channel has become something more than I ever expected, not just a collection of stories, but a community built on truth, regret, and hope. Let me take you back to where it all started. My wife died on a Tuesday. The hospice nurse told me she went peacefully, but I don't know what peaceful means when someone you've loved for 37 years stops breathing beside you. Cancer took Linda slowly, room by room, organ by organ, until there was nothing left but the shell of who she used to be. I held her hand that last morning in the pale dawn light and told her I'd be okay. I lied. She knew I was lying. Her eyes, still sharp despite everything the disease had stolen, looked at me with something between pity and forgiveness. She squeezed my hand once, barely, and then she was gone. Just like that. 37 years reduced to silence and the steady beep of a machine that no longer mattered. The months after her funeral were a blur of condolence, casseroles, and empty rooms. Our house in Seattle felt enormous suddenly, every corner filled with memories I couldn't escape. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, reaching for her, forgetting for those first cruel seconds that she was gone, and then remembering all over again. The grief would hit me like a physical thing, crushing my chest until I couldn't breathe. I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the point was, wondering why I was still here when she wasn't. My daughter Sarah came by every few days with groceries and worried eyes. "Dad, you need to eat," she'd say, unpacking chicken and vegetables I wouldn't touch. "You need to take care of yourself." But I didn't know how to do that anymore. Taking care of myself meant taking care of us, and there was no us anymore. The high school where I'd taught science for 3 decades gave me their sympathies and suggested I take early retirement. I was 62. Old enough, they said. They meant well. The principal, a woman half my age who'd only been there 5 years, sat me down in her office with its motivational posters and plastic plants. "Graham, we think it would be best," she said gently. "Give yourself time to heal. Focus on yourself." I wanted to tell her that focusing on myself was the last thing I needed, that the only thing keeping me from falling apart completely was the routine of getting up and going to work and pretending everything was normal. But I didn't. I just nodded and signed the papers and cleaned out my desk. My classroom had been my second home. Now it was just another place I didn't belong anymore. Retirement meant more empty hours, more silence, more time to remember what I'd lost. I tried to fill the days. I went to the gym and walked on the treadmill for hours, watching CNN without seeing it. I joined a grief support group at the community center where everyone sat in a circle and shared their pain like it was supposed to help. A woman my age talked about losing her husband to a heart attack. "It's been 2 years and I still sat 2 places at the table," she said, crying quietly. I never went back. I couldn't sit there and listen to people talk about moving on, about finding new purpose, about how time heals all wounds. Time wasn't healing anything. Time was just making the absence more permanent. I started looking online for something, Anything. To fill the void. I found a volunteer forum for retired teachers who wanted to work overseas. The posts were full of enthusiastic retirees talking about teaching English in Ecuador, building schools in Guatemala, tutoring kids in Vietnam. One post caught my eye. A small community center in Chiang Rai, Thailand needed English tutors. Northern Thailand, near the mountains. The pay was nothing, just room and board, but that didn't matter. I had my pension and Linda's life insurance sitting in the bank, more money than I'd ever need for a life I didn't want to live. What I needed wasn't money. It was purpose. I needed to feel like I mattered again. I needed to feel like getting out of bed had a reason. I applied that night, typing out a cover letter about my teaching experience and my desire to give back. 3 days later, I got an email. They'd love to have me. When could I start? I stared at the words on the screen, my heart pounding. This was insane. I was 62 years old. I'd never been to Asia. I didn't speak Thai. I didn't even like spicy food. But sitting in that empty house, surrounded by Linda's things and the life we'd built together, I knew I couldn't stay. If I stayed, I'd disappear into the grief until there was nothing left of me. So I bought a one-way ticket, packed 2 suitcases with clothes and books, and left Seattle behind. My daughter, Sarah, thought I was having a breakdown. "Dad, you don't just move to Thailand," she said over the phone, her voice tight with worry and barely suppressed panic. "You've never even been on a plane longer than 5 hours. What if you get sick? What if something happens?" I told her I needed this. I told her I'd be careful. I told her I'd call every week. I told her I loved her. Then I hung up before she could argue anymore and boarded the plane before I could change my mind. 15 hours later, I landed in Bangkok, exhausted and disoriented, the humidity hitting me like a wall when I stepped outside. I took another flight north to Chiang Rai, watching the landscape change from urban sprawl to green mountains and rice paddies. When I finally arrived at the small guest house where I'd be staying, I collapsed on the hard mattress and slept for 14 hours straight. Chiang Rai was nothing like Seattle. The air smelled like jasmine and exhaust fumes and something sweet I couldn't identify. The streets were narrow and chaotic, filled with motorbikes weaving between tuk-tuks and street vendors selling fried insects and fresh fruit. Dogs slept in the middle of sidewalks. Old women squatted on corners selling lottery tickets. Everywhere I looked, there were smiles and colors and noise. It was overwhelming and alien and exactly what I needed. The community center where I'd be teaching was in a small village about 20 minutes outside the city, accessible by a rutted dirt road that turned to mud when it rained. The building itself was just a concrete room with a tin roof, plastic chairs, and a whiteboard covered in water stains. But the kids who came were eager, showing up after their regular school day with notebooks and pencils and bright, curious faces. They ranged from 8 to 15. All of them wanting to learn English because it meant opportunity, it meant a future beyond the village. I taught them basic conversation and grammar, stumbling through my lessons with hand gestures and drawings when words failed. They laughed at my pronunciation, gently correcting me when I tried to say their names. A girl named Ploy taught me how to say thank you properly. A boy named Lek showed me how to eat somtam without crying from the chilies. Slowly, day by day, I started to feel useful again. Not happy. Not yet, but purposeful. Like maybe there was a reason I was still here. For the first time since Linda died, I could breathe without feeling like I was drowning. I started exploring the village, walking the narrow paths between wooden houses built on stilts, waving to the locals who would smile and call out Sawasti. I'd smile back, feeling like maybe, just maybe, I was going to be okay. That's when I met her. Aum worked next door to the community center at a small massage shop with faded pink curtains and a hand-painted sign that said traditional Thai massage in both Thai and English. The building was barely more than a shack, with bamboo walls and a corrugated metal roof. Inside there were 3 massage tables separated by thin curtains and the smell of tiger balm and incense. She was 28, petite and delicate. With long black hair she kept tied back in a simple ponytail and eyes that seemed perpetually tired. The first time I walked past, she was sweeping the sidewalk in front of the shop, her movements slow and mechanical. She looked up and smiled, shy and brief, and said, "Sawasdee ka," in a voice barely above a whisper. I nodded back, suddenly feeling clumsy and out of place. This tall, awkward foreigner with white hair and sunburned arms. A few days later, one of the other volunteers, a woman named Suda who'd been teaching at the center for 2 years, suggested I get a massage. "Your back is going to kill you if you keep hunching over that desk," she said, watching me stretch after a long day of teaching. "There's a place right next door. Cheap and clean. Aum is really good." So I went, pushing through the beaded curtain that hung in the doorway, feeling nervous for reasons I couldn't explain. Aum looked up from where she was folding towels, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. "You want massage?" she asked in careful English. I nodded. "If you have time." She smiled, that same shy smile, and gestured to one of the tables. "Yes, I have time. You can change behind curtain." She worked on me for an hour, her hands strong and skilled, finding knots in my shoulders and back I didn't know I had. She didn't talk much during the massage, just occasionally asking, "Okay, not too hard?" in her soft voice. But when it was over and I was putting my shoes back on, she sat across from me on a small plastic stool and asked, "You are teacher at school?" I nodded. "English teacher. I'm from America." Her eyes lit up. "America. I want to go America someday. Is it beautiful, like in movies?" I laughed, surprised by the innocence of the question. "Some parts are. Where I'm from, Seattle, it rains a lot." She nodded thoughtfully. "Here rain too. But different rain. Soft rain." We talked for a few more minutes, her English halting but earnest, my Thai non-existent. When I got up to leave, she said, "You have kind face. You look like good man." I felt something warm and unfamiliar stir in my chest. "Thank you," I said. "You're very kind too." I went back a few days later, and then again the next week. It became a routine. Every Friday after teaching, I'd walk next door and Aom would be waiting, that soft smile on her face. We started talking during the sessions, conversations that were clumsy and broken but genuine. She asked about my life in America, about why I came to Thailand, about what it was like to be a teacher. I told her about Linda, about losing her, about wanting to feel useful again. I didn't plan to share so much, but there was something about Aom's quiet presence that made me want to open up. She listened without interrupting, her hands working on my back, and when I finished, she said softly, "I understand. Sometimes life take everything away. You must be very strong." I felt tears prick my eyes. I hadn't cried since the funeral, and suddenly this tiny woman I barely knew was making me feel things I'd been pushing down for months. "I don't feel strong," I admitted. She squeezed my shoulder gently. "Strong people never do." I started asking about her life too. She was careful at first, deflecting with vague answers. But gradually, she began to share. She told me her name was Kanchana, but everyone called her Aum. She'd grown up in a village even smaller than this one, the oldest of 4 children. Her father died when she was 12, leaving her mother to raise them alone. She'd finished grade 6 before dropping out to work, sending money home to help her siblings finish school. "They all graduate now," she said with pride. "My sister, she work in bank in Bangkok. My brothers, they have good jobs. I am happy for them." I asked about her family now, about her life here. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. A little boy with messy black hair and a gap-toothed grin stared back at me, his eyes bright with mischief. "This is Tan," she said quietly. "My son. He is 6 years old." I smiled. "He's beautiful. Where is he now?" Her smile faded. "With my mother. She take care while I work." I saw the sadness in her eyes and gently asked, "What about his father?" She put the phone away, her movements slow and deliberate. "He leave us 2 years ago. Find new woman. Younger. Have family money. He say I not good enough, that he make mistake, marry village girl." Her voice was flat, emotionless, like she'd told this story so many times it had lost its power to hurt. But I could see the pain underneath. "That's terrible," I said. "I'm sorry." She shrugged. "Is okay. Better he leave than stay and make us sad every day. Now is just me and Tan. I work, Save money, try to give him good life. She looked at me, her eyes suddenly fierce. I want him to study. I want him to go university, have good job, not like me. I only finish grade 6, so I work massage shop. But Tan is smart. Teachers say he is very smart. He can be anything. The love in her voice. The desperate hope. It hit me hard. I thought about Sarah, about how Linda and I had saved and sacrificed to send her to college, about how proud we were when she graduated and became a nurse. Every parent wants their kid to have more than they did. Iom was no different. She was just trying to survive and give her son a chance. How much does school cost? I asked. She looked surprised by the question. Why, you ask? I shrugged, feeling awkward suddenly. Just curious. She thought for a moment. Uniform, books, fees. Maybe 3,000 baht for one term. But is difficult. Sometimes I not have enough, so Tun miss school. Teacher is kind. She let him come anyway. But I feel shame. 3,000 baht was less than $100. The cost of a nice dinner in Seattle. The thought of this kid missing school because his mother couldn't scrape together that amount made my chest tighten. The next week, I brought a bag with me to the massage shop. Inside were toys I'd bought at the market. Little cars and coloring books and a stuffed elephant. These are for Tun, I said, handing the bag to Aom. She stared at it, her eyes widening. Teacher, why you do this? I felt embarrassed suddenly. I just thought, I don't know. I saw them and thought he might like them. She opened the bag slowly, pulling out each toy like it was precious, and then her eyes filled with tears. You don't have to do this, she whispered. I want to, I said. It's nothing, but it wasn't nothing to her. She looked at me with such gratitude, such raw emotion, that I felt my own throat tighten. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking. You have good heart. Not many people like you. She hugged me then, quick and impulsive, her small body pressed against mine for just a moment before she pulled away, embarrassed. I felt something shift in that moment, something dangerous and desperate. I told myself it was just kindness, just one human helping another. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I was starting to need her gratitude. I was starting to need to be needed. I started visiting more often, not always for massages, but just to talk. Aom would make me instant coffee in the tiny back room of the shop, the kind that came in packets and was too sweet and too strong, and we'd sit on plastic stools and share stories. She told me about her childhood, about climbing trees and catching frogs in the rice paddies and sleeping on the floor with her siblings in the hot season. She told me about her wedding, a small ceremony in the village temple where she'd worn a borrowed dress and believed that her husband would take care of her forever. I was stupid girl, she said, staring into her coffee. I believe everything he say. He promised me house, car, good life. Then I get pregnant and everything change. He start go out with friends, come home drunk, sometimes not come home. When I ask where he go, he yell at me, say I talk too much. After Tan born, he say baby cry too much, that I not sexy anymore, that he regret marry me. Then he leave. She looked up at me, her eyes dry but haunted. I was stupid to believe him. I reached across and touched her hand. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. There's a difference. She turned her hand over, her fingers curling around mine. You are different from Thai men, she said softly. You are kind. You listen. Thai men, they don't listen. They think women should be quiet, work hard, not complain. But you are different. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't trying to be different. I was just trying to be human. You deserve someone who treats you well, I finally said. She squeezed my hand. I think I already find him. The line between friendship and something more blurred quickly after that. I started bringing groceries when I visited. Rice and vegetables and fruit. Aum would insist I stay for dinner, cooking simple meals on her small gas stove in the one-room wooden house she rented. The house was barely more than a shack, with gaps in the walls where the wind came through and a tin roof that banged when it rained. There was one room with a mattress on the floor, a small table, and a hot plate. The bathroom was shared with 3 other families, just a squat toilet and a bucket for showering. But Aum kept it spotless. Everything organized and clean despite having almost nothing. Tun would be there, playing with the toys I'd brought, and when he saw me, he'd run over shouting, "Papa teacher, Papa teacher." The first time he called me that, I froze. Aum looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I tell him you are like Papa because you are kind to us. I tell him stop if you don't like." But I did like it. God help me, I liked it. I liked the way Tan's face lit up when I walked in. I liked the way he'd climb into my lap and show me his drawings. I liked feeling like I was part of something again. We'd sit on the floor together eating dinner, rice and fried eggs and whatever vegetables Aum could afford, and it felt more real than anything had in years. Aum would watch me with soft eyes as I helped Tan sound out English words from his school book. "You are good with children," she'd say. "You must miss teaching." I did miss it. But more than that, I missed belonging to something. I missed being someone's husband, someone's father figure, someone's person. Linda had been gone for almost a year, and this was the first time I'd felt anything close to whole. After dinner, after Tan fell asleep on the mattress, Aum and I would sit outside on the small wooden porch, listening to the sounds of the village settling in for the night. Dogs barking, kids laughing, the distant hum of motorbikes on the main road. One night, she leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat like that in silence for a long time, and then she said quietly, "What if we were together?" My heart stopped. I turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" She sat up, looking at me with those tired, hopeful eyes. "I mean, what if you and me, we try to be family, Tun love you. You love Tun. I think maybe you love me too." I didn't know what to say. The practical part of my brain was screaming warnings. I was 62 years old. She was 28. I was a foreigner who didn't speak the language or understand the culture. This was crazy. But the lonely part of me, the part that had been empty and aching since Linda died, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that love could happen twice, that happiness could be rebuilt from kindness and hope. I'm 34 years older than you," I said slowly. "I don't know if this is right. I don't know if this is fair to you." She took my hand, her fingers small and warm. "Age not important. Heart important. You make me feel safe. You make me feel like maybe I deserve good things. You make Tun smile. That is enough for me." I kissed her then, leaning in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. She kissed me back, soft and tentative, and I felt something in my chest crack open. "I care about you," I said when we pulled apart. "I care about both of you." She smiled, really smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked young. "I care about you too, teacher, more than I should." That night, walking back to my guest house through the dark village paths, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Hope. The possibility that maybe I wasn't done. That maybe there was still life left to live. I told myself this was real. I told myself age didn't matter when the connection was genuine. I told myself I deserved happiness again. I was wrong about all of it. The shift started small. A week after we'd kissed, after we'd started officially being together, Aum called me in the middle of the day. Her voice was strained. "Teacher, I need to ask you something. It's hard for me." My stomach tightened. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She took a breath. "My landlord. He come this morning. He say I owe 2 months' rent. I not realize I so behind. I work so much but money always gone. He say if I don't pay by tomorrow he make us leave. I don't know where we go. I have no family here anymore." I felt sick. The image of Aum and Tun with their few belongings in bags, standing on the street with nowhere to go, made my chest ache. "How much do you need?" I asked. She hesitated. 5,000 baht. "But teacher, I cannot ask you this. Is too much. You already so kind." 5,000 baht was about $150. I had more than that in my wallet from the ATM earlier that week. "I'll help you," I said immediately. "I'll transfer it right now." She started crying. "I cannot take your money. You already do so much." But I insisted. I downloaded a banking app and sent her the money within minutes, my hands shaking slightly as I pressed confirm. When it went through, she called me back, sobbing. "Teacher, you save us. I don't know how to thank you. You are the best man I ever meet. I told her it was nothing, just a loan. She could pay me back when things got better. But even as I said it, I knew I didn't mean it. I didn't care about the money. I cared about being her hero. I cared about being the one who saved her. The next day, she came to see me after I finished teaching. She was carrying a small bag and looked nervous. "I bring you something," she said, pulling out a container of homemade food, sticky rice and grilled chicken. "Is not much, but I want to say thank you." I took it, touched by the gesture. Then she hugged me, long and tight, her face pressed against my chest. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling how small she was, how fragile. I wanted to protect her from everything. When she pulled back, her eyes were shining. "You are more than boyfriend," she said. "You are family now. You are Tun's papa. You are my everything." Hearing her say that made something in me swell with pride and purpose. I wasn't just some retired teacher drifting through life anymore. I was important, I mattered, I was building a family again. That's when the requests started. Small at first, easy to justify. A few weeks later, Aum asked if I could help buy a small refrigerator for the house. Food go bad so fast in heat, she explained as we sat on her porch. "Tun, he gets sick stomach 2 times this month because milk go bad. If we have refrigerator, I can keep things fresh, save money because I don't have to buy food every day." It made perfect sense. I went with her to a second-hand shop and bought one for 8,000 baht. It was old and dented, but it worked. Tun was thrilled, dancing around as we plugged it in. "Now we have cold water," he shouted. And Aum laughed, hugging him. She looked at me over his head, her eyes full of gratitude and something else I couldn't quite name. "Thank you," she mouthed. I smiled back, feeling like a provider, like a man taking care of his family. A week later, it was school uniforms. "Tun, grow so fast," Aum said, holding up the old uniform that was too small. "And he need new shoes. His have holes, he come home with feet wet when rain." I took them shopping, watching Tun try on different sizes, his face serious and focused like picking shoes was the most important decision in the world. When we found a pair that fit, he looked up at me with pure joy. "Thank you, Papa Teacher," he said, throwing his arms around my legs. I paid for the uniforms and shoes without thinking, another 4,000 baht, and told Aum it was my pleasure. She hugged me in the middle of the store, whispering, "You are making all his dreams come true." I felt 10 feet tall. Then, it was a new mattress. The old one, it have mold, Aum said, showing me the dark spots creeping across the thin foam. Tun cough at night. I worry for his lungs. We bought a new one, cheap but clean, for 6,000 baht. I helped carry it to her house, sweating in the heat, feeling useful and needed. Aum made me lunch as a thank you, and we ate together while Tun napped on the new mattress, his breathing easier already. "I wish I can do more for you," she said softly. "You give us everything. What I give you." I reached across and took her hand. "You give me a reason to get up in the morning. That's more than enough." The pattern was set. Every couple of weeks, there was something new. She owed money to a local moneylender, 7,000 baht at an interest rate so high it made my stomach turn. "He come to house every week," she said, her voice scared. "He say if I don't pay soon, he make trouble. I hear stories, teacher. These men, they not nice if you don't pay." I paid it off immediately, not wanting her to live in fear. She cried when I transferred the money, telling me I'd saved her life. I told her it was nothing, that no one should have to live under that kind of threat. But each time I helped, each time I transferred money or bought something they needed, I felt a little more essential, a little more trapped. I was becoming the solution to all her problems, and some dark part of me liked it. It meant she needed me. It meant she wouldn't leave. 2 months into our relationship, she called me in panic. It was late, almost 11 at night, and her voice was barely coherent through the sobs. "Teacher, please, something terrible happened. I don't know what to do." My heart slammed against my ribs. I sat up in bed, fully awake. "What's wrong? Are you hurt? Is Ton okay?" She was crying so hard she could hardly speak. "My mama, she have accident. Motorcycle crash in Phai. She in hospital now. They say she needs surgery, need blood transfusion, need medicine. They want 30,000 baht before they do anything. If I don't pay, they send her home and she die. I felt cold all over. 30,000 baht was almost $1,000. I'll send it right now, I said, already reaching for my laptop. Which hospital? Do you have the account information? She gave me the details, her words tumbling over each other. I go there tonight. I take bus. I have to see her. Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much. I pay you back. I promise I pay you back. I transferred the money, watching my bank balance drop, and then sat in the dark trying to calm my racing heart. This was her mother. Of course I had to help. What kind of person would I be if I let someone's mother suffer because I was worried about money? I texted Aum to confirm the transfer went through. She replied immediately. I see it. Thank you. You saved my mama life. I never forget this. You are angel. I told her to focus on her mother, that I'd be here when she got back, that everything would be okay. But lying there in the dark, I felt something cold creep into my chest, something that felt like doubt. I pushed it away. Her mother was in the hospital. Of course she was upset. Of course she needed help. She was gone for a week. We texted every day. Her messages brief and worried. Mama still very sick. Doctor say she need more time. I stay here with her. I miss you. I sent words of encouragement, told her to take all the time she needed, asked if she needed more money. She said no, that what I'd given was enough. When she finally came back, I went to meet her at the bus station. I'd missed her, worried about her, imagined her sitting in some sterile hospital room holding her mother's hand. But when she stepped off the bus, I barely recognized her. She was wearing new clothes, a sleek black dress that looked expensive, not the simple jeans and t-shirts she usually wore. Her hair was freshly cut and styled, falling in soft waves around her face. She had new makeup on, subtle but professional, and in her hand was a brand new smartphone, one of the latest models, the kind that cost more than 2 months of her rent. She saw me and waved, smiling brightly, but something in my chest tightened. When she reached me, she hugged me, but it felt different. Less desperate, more performative. I miss you so much, she said against my shoulder. I pulled back, looking at her. You look different. How's your mother? Her smile didn't waver. She okay now? Doctor say she will recover. She just need rest. I nodded slowly, my eyes going to the phone in her hand. That's a nice phone. Is it new? She glanced at it, then back at me. Oh yes. My friend give me. She feels so sorry about my mama. And she know my old phone broken, so she buy me new one. And she take me shopping to make me feel better. She say I too sad. I need something to be happy about. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That's a very generous friend. She nodded enthusiastically. Yes. She very kind. Like you. I wanted to ask more, to probe deeper. But something in her eyes warned me off. Instead, I smiled and took her hand. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad your mother is okay. But walking back to the village, her hand in mine, all I could think about was the new clothes and the expensive phone and the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. That night, I started keeping track. I opened a spreadsheet on my laptop and wrote down every baht I'd given her. Rent, 5,000. Refrigerator, 8,000. School uniforms and shoes, 4,000. Mattress, 6,000. Loan repayment, 7,000. Hospital bills, 30,000. The total was already 60,000 baht, almost $2,000, in 3 months. I stared at the number, my stomach churning. It wasn't that I couldn't afford it. I could. My pension and Linda's life insurance meant I was comfortable. But seeing it all written down, seeing how much had gone out in such a short time, made me uneasy. I added a note to track future expenses. I told myself it was just to be organized, to keep things clear. But really, I was starting to doubt. I was starting to wonder if the woman I loved was who I thought she was. The requests kept coming, each one urgent, each one impossible to refuse. A few weeks later, her electricity had been cut off. I not realize I so behind, she said, showing me the notice. Is 10,000 baht. Without electricity, Tan cannot study at night. I cannot cook. Is too hot to sleep. I transferred the money. Then it was school fees for Tan's next term, another 8,000. Her brother needed money for job training, 12,000. Her cousin was getting married and she needed to give a gift, 5,000. Each time, the story made sense. Each time, she cried and thanked me and told me I was saving her. Each time, I felt a little more sick but couldn't say no. Because what was the alternative? Let her struggle? Let Tan suffer? Admit that I was being used? Her messages started changing. They became shorter, less personal. Need 3,000 for water bill. Can you help? No explanation. No apology. Just the request. I'd send the money, and she'd reply with a simple thank you and nothing else. When I visited, she seemed distracted, always checking her phone, always making excuses about why she had to leave early. I have customer, she'd say. I have to pick up Tan. I have to help friend. I'd nod and smile, but inside I was unraveling. The woman I'd fallen for, the one who hung on my every word and called me her savior, was disappearing. In her place was someone cold and transactional, someone who saw me as an ATM, not a partner. One Sunday afternoon, I decided to surprise her. I bought fresh fruit from the market and walked to her house unannounced. As I approached, I heard laughter inside, bright and carefree. I knocked on the door, and the laughter stopped abruptly. Aom opened it, her face flushed. Teacher, you come early. I not expect you. I smiled, confused by her reaction. I wanted to surprise you. I brought fruit. I held up the bag, but she didn't move to let me in. Oh, thank you. Maybe I see you later? I have friend visiting. I felt a stab of hurt. Can't I come in for just a minute? She hesitated, then stepped aside. Okay, but only short time. Inside, Tan was sitting on the floor playing with an expensive-looking remote control car, something I definitely hadn't bought. And across from him sat a man I'd never seen before, mid-30s, handsome, wearing a designer polo shirt and expensive watch. He looked up at me with mild surprise and stood, extending his hand. Sawasdee krap, he said with an easy smile. I shook his hand, my mind racing. Sawasdee krap. I'm Graham. He nodded. I'm Win. Nice to meet you. Aom jumped in quickly. This my cousin. He visit from Bangkok. I looked at her, then at him. Cousin. Right. It's nice to meet family, I said, my voice strained. Aom talks about her family a lot. Win smiled, but there was something knowing in his eyes. Yes. Family very important. Aom is lucky to have good friend like you. Thank you for helping her so much. I felt my face burn. Good friend, not boyfriend, not partner, friend. I stayed for exactly 10 minutes, making awkward small talk about Bangkok and weather and traffic. The whole time, I watched Aom and Win. The way they sat just a little too close. The way their eyes met when they thought I wasn't looking. The way Tan called him Phi Win, with easy familiarity, like he'd been around a lot. When I finally stood to leave, Aom walked me to the door. Sorry he visit unexpected, she said quietly. He just come for few hours. I nodded, not trusting my voice. As I walked away, I heard Tan's voice inside. Phi Win, play with me more. And then laughter. That same bright, carefree laughter I'd interrupted. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling fan, my mind spinning. Who was Win, really? Why had Tan been so comfortable with him? Why had Aom looked guilty when I showed up? I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was letting my insecurities and age difference get the better of me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just seen something I wasn't supposed to. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I searched for Aom on Facebook using her full name, Kanchana. I'd never looked before because she'd told me she didn't use social media much, that it was just for old people. But I found her profile easily. It was public, and it was active, very active. There were photos going back years. Photos of her with friends, with Tan, with her family, and photos with Win. Lots of photos with Win. At restaurants. At the beach. At a festival. In one, his arm was around her waist. In another, they were kissing. The most recent was from 3 weeks ago, while she was supposedly at the hospital with her dying mother. They were at a nice restaurant in Chiang Mai, both dressed up, both smiling at the camera. The caption said, "Love you always," with a heart emoji. I felt like the world had tilted. I scrolled back through months of photos. They'd been together for years. There were pictures of them with Tan, playing at a park, celebrating his birthday. Win was listed as in a relationship with Kinchana. This wasn't her ex-husband. This wasn't her cousin. This was her boyfriend. Her real boyfriend. And I was. What? The foreigner who paid the bills? I opened her message history with me, reading back through our conversations with fresh eyes. Every request for money, every emergency, every crisis. Had any of it been real? Was her mother even in an accident? I went to Win's profile next. He was a car salesman in Bangkok, successful by the looks of it. His photos showed someone confident and charming, someone young and handsome and nothing like me. But in the photos with he always looked relaxed, happy, like they were a real couple, because they were. I was the illusion. I should have confronted her immediately. I should have shown her the photos and demanded the truth. But I didn't. I sat with the knowledge for days, turning it over in my mind, trying to make it make sense. Maybe they were broken up and just hadn't updated their status. Maybe those old photos meant nothing. Maybe I was overreacting, but the photo from 3 weeks ago kept haunting me. She'd told me she was at the hospital with her dying mother. She'd taken 30,000 baht from me, and she'd been at a restaurant with her boyfriend, the man she loved, the man who wasn't me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, I went to her house. She was alone. Tan was at her mother's place. When she opened the door, she smiled. "Teacher, you come visit. I make coffee." I walked inside and sat down on the plastic stool. My hands were shaking. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Her smile faltered. "What is wrong?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Her and Win at the restaurant. Her face went white. "Who is Win really?" I asked quietly. She stared at the screen, then at me, and for a long moment, she said nothing. Then she started crying. "Teacher, I can explain." I waited, my heart pounding. "He is my ex. We together before, but we break up long time ago. He not leave me alone. He keep come back, say he sorry, say he want to be family again. But I tell him no. I tell him I with you now." I showed her another photo, this one from a month ago. This was a month ago. We were already together. She sobbed harder. "I meet him one time because he say he want to see Tan. I say okay, just one time. But I don't love him. I love you." I scrolled to the photo from 3 weeks ago. "What about this one? You told me you were at the hospital. You told me your mother was dying." She looked at the photo and her crying stopped. Just stopped. Her face went blank. "You check my Facebook? You spy on me?" I felt a flash of anger. "You lied to me, You took my money and you lied." She stood up, her arms crossed. "I not lie. My mama was sick. I did go to hospital. But I also have life. I can see friend." I stood too, my voice rising. "Friend? He's not your friend. He's your boyfriend. You're still with him." She shook her head. "You don't understand. It's complicated." I wanted to yell. I wanted to throw the phone. Instead, I pulled up my banking app and showed her the spreadsheet I'd been keeping. "Look at this. Look at how much I've given you." She glanced at the screen, her face hard. "I never force you. You want to help. You say you love me. You want to take care of us." I scrolled to the total at the bottom. 812,000 baht. That's what I've given you in 8 months. Almost $25,000. She looked at the number and something flickered in her eyes. Not guilt. Not shame. Something else. Calculation. "So what you want me to say?" she asked. Her voice cold now. "You want me to say thank you again? I say thank you every time. You want me to say sorry? Sorry for what? You wanted to help. I let you help. You wanted to feel good. To feel like big man who saved poor Thai girl. I give you that. We both get what we want. I felt like she'd slapped me. I loved you, I said, my voice breaking. I thought we were building something real. She laughed, bitter and tired. Real? You are 62 years old. I am 28. You think I love you because you handsome? Because you young? I am with you because you kind and because you have money. That is real. That is honest. You want to pretend is fairy tale. That is on you. I stared at her. This woman I thought I knew, and realized I'd never known her at all. What about everything you said? About me being your family? About Ton calling me Papa? She shrugged. Ton like you. You buy him things. You are kind to him. Why I should stop that? I felt sick. And Win? Her eyes hardened. Win is father of Ton. Real father. He leave for while, but he come back. He say he want to be family. I think maybe he's serious now. But I not tell you because you give money and I need money. When he ready, I go with him. Until then, I have you. The honesty of it was brutal. She wasn't even pretending anymore. No tears, no apologies, just cold transactional truth. I'd been a placeholder. A bank account with a heartbeat. Did you ever care about me at all? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me for a long moment. I care that you are good to my son. I care that you help when I need help. But love? She shook her head. I love Win. I always love Win. You are just, kind foreigner who make life easier. I left without another word. There was nothing left to say. I walked back to my guest house in the dark, my mind numb, my chest hollow. When I got to my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and finally let myself cry. Not for not for the money, but for the fantasy I'd built. The story I'd told myself about being someone's hero. I'd wanted so badly to matter again after Linda died. I'd wanted so badly to feel useful, to feel loved, that I'd ignored every red flag, every warning sign. I'd let myself be used because being used felt better than being alone. The next morning, I started packing. I'd been in Chiang Rai for 10 months. I'd given almost everything I had emotionally and financially to a woman who saw me as a resource, not a person. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of ignoring the truth. I went to the community center and told them I was leaving. Suda, the other volunteer, looked at me with knowing eyes. It was the massage girl, wasn't it? She asked gently. I nodded. I tried to warn you early on, she said. These villages, they see foreigners, and they see opportunity. Not everyone, but some. I'm sorry. I shrugged. I should have listened. She hugged me. Don't let this make you bitter. You have a good heart. That's worth protecting. I didn't tell Aom I was leaving. I just left. I boxed up my books and donated them to the school. I gave my furniture to other volunteers. I bought a bus ticket to Chiang Mai and left before dawn, before anyone could see me go. As the bus pulled away from Chiang Rai, I looked out at the mountains I'd come to love and felt nothing. Just emptiness. My phone buzzed. A message from Aom. Teacher, when you visit today, Ton want to see you. I turned off my phone. Chiang Mai was different from Chiang Rai. Bigger, more anonymous, easier to disappear into. I rented a small studio apartment near the old city and spent the first week doing nothing but sleeping and staring at the walls. Sarah called, her voice worried. Dad, you haven't answered my messages in days. What's going on? I told her I'd moved cities, that I was fine, that I just needed some time to adjust. I didn't tell her about Aom. I didn't tell her about the money. Some humiliations are too deep to share, even with your own daughter. Slowly, I started building a routine again. I found a small language center that needed part-time teachers. Nothing formal, just conversation classes for adults and kids. I'd show up 3 times a week and teach for a few hours, then go home. I avoided massage shops. I avoided making friends. I walked through the city like a ghost, present but not really there. At night, lying in my narrow bed, I'd think about Aum and Win and Ton. I'd wonder if they were happy. I'd wonder if Win was giving her what she needed or if she was already looking for the next kind foreigner. I'd wonder if Ton remembered me at all. 3 months after I left Chiang Rai, I got a message from an unknown number. "Teacher, this is Aum. I get your new number from school. I want to say I am sorry. I know I hurt you. I was wrong. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to demand answers, to get closure. But the bigger part of me knew there was no closure to be had. No conversation would change what happened. No apology would give me back the money or the time or the foolish hope I'd invested in her. I blocked the number. A year passed. Then another. I stayed in Chiang Mai, teaching part-time, living quietly. I made a few friends, other expats who'd come to Thailand for various reasons. We'd meet for coffee sometimes, share stories, but I never told them about Aum. It was too raw, too embarrassing. On the anniversary of Linda's death, I lit incense at a temple and sat in silence, thinking about the life we'd built together and how far I'd fallen since losing her. But I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Aum, not at myself. Just sad. Sad for the loneliness that had driven me to ignore common sense. Sad for the desperation that had made me believe love could be bought. One day, I was walking through the Sunday market when I saw her. Not Aum, but a woman who reminded me of her. Young, petite, carrying a baby on her hip, walking beside a Western man who looked to be in his 60s. They were holding hands, and he was smiling down at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I watched them for a moment, and I wanted to walk over and warn him. To tell him to be careful, to protect his heart and his wallet, to ask questions and demand honesty. But I didn't. Because maybe their story was different. Maybe she really did love him. Maybe not everyone was like Aum. Or maybe he needed to learn his own lesson the way I'd learned mine. Either way, it wasn't my place to interfere. I went home that day and opened my laptop. I hadn't written anything since Linda died, but suddenly I felt the urge to put it all down. Everything. The grief, the loneliness, the hope, the betrayal, the lesson. I wrote for hours, the words pouring out like a confession. When I finished, I read it back and felt something release in my chest. Not forgiveness, not healing exactly, but understanding. I'd gone to Thailand looking for purpose, and I'd found it, just not in the way I expected. My purpose wasn't to save Aum. It was to learn that I couldn't save anyone, that helping without boundaries was just another form of self-destruction. It was to learn that love isn't about need, it's about choice. And Aum had made her choice. She'd chosen Win. She'd chosen money. She'd chosen survival, and I couldn't fault her for that, even if it had broken me in the process. Now I live quietly in my small apartment in Chiang Mai. I teach English to kids who show up with eager faces and rough notebooks. I walk through the city in the mornings when the air is cool and the temples are just waking up. I eat street food alone and read books in coffee shops and talk to my daughter once a week. It's a small life, a simple life, but it's mine. And it's enough. I don't date. I don't look for companionship. I've learned that some wounds need to heal in solitude, and I'm not ready to risk my heart again. Maybe I never will be. Maybe that's okay. When people ask me why I came to Thailand, I tell them I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to give back. I wanted to feel useful. I don't tell them about Aum. I don't tell them about the 812,000 baht or the woman who saw me as a wallet or the little boy who called me Papa until I wasn't useful anymore. I don't tell them about the lesson I learned the hard way, that kindness without wisdom is just naivety dressed up as virtue. That love built on need isn't love at all, that you can't fix your own brokenness by trying to fix someone else's. But I think about it. I think about it every day. Not with anger or regret, but with a kind of sad wisdom. I gave everything I had to someone who didn't want it, and in doing so, I learned what I'm actually worth, not how much money I have, not how useful I can be, but the intrinsic value of my heart, my time, my presence, and those things, I've learned, are too precious to give to people who only see me as a transaction. I thought she needed help. I thought I was saving her. But in the end, she didn't need saving. She just needed my bank account. And I was lonely enough, desperate enough, broken enough to give it to her. That's the truth. That's my story. And if there's any wisdom in it, it's this. Not every cry for help is honest. Not every sob story is true. And not everyone who says they love you actually does. Learn to see the difference. Protect your heart. Know your worth. Because once you give everything away, there's nothing left to rebuild with. And rebuilding, I've learned, is the hardest part of all.